This is clearly a laptop. We can see that very clearly when we open it, and just by looking at it, that is in fact a laptop, but it has a problem and it keeps crashing, and it's an ongoing issue that we've been trying to resolve for quite some time. So we've kind of given up with this, and we're going to be moving over to this tiny little Micro ATX system with a 10-core CPU. Now, before we get building, let's just go through the parts that we're going to be building with. Firstly, we've got an unbranded Micro ATX board. Now, this one is kind of cool, and it has been shown on a recent video that Tech Lab UK did that we took part in. But we are also going to be using this as well because I thought it was quite good. Now, before we get to the CPU, that is the board itself, Micro ATX, of course, and you've got the two DIMM slots there and one PCIe, which is all we need for this particular build. So that's actually fine. But what it does have is two M.2 SSD ports on it, which is really great to see on a Micro ATX board, two of them on this side and not one on the back like some of them do. But I just thought that was actually quite a good little feature of this board. Now, as I said, it is unbranded and I have no idea who makes it, but when we put it in and fire it up, well, I guess we'll find out. This board is quite interesting in that I've already said it's got two M.2 on it, but even more so, it's got a PS2. It's got two PS2 ports on it, which nobody really uses anymore. They were obsolete decades ago, but this board does have two of them for a keyboard and mouse. That's what we used to have to plug our keyboard and mouse into, as I said, decades ago. But on the flip side, it does have 6 USB ports on the back. Hopefully they're USB 3. I don't actually know at this point because I've not fired it up to have a look yet. Moving on to the CPU power delivery, we've got 7 phases along there. So quite beefy power delivery for a Micro ATX board of unknown origin. I keep going back to that, but it is unknown origin. I have no idea. Going on to the CPU, we've gone kind of server side with this one. So we've actually got a Xeon 2680 V2. That is socket 2011. And that is a 2.8 gig 10-core CPU. That means that what we have here is a 10-core, 20-thread CPU in a Micro ATX. That's it's going to be quite impressive. I'm really, really keen to see how this performs. I can't wait. For the RAM, we've gone with DDR3 because that's all we can take in this one. And that is DDR3 1866 megahertz. So yeah, on the slower side, I know, but for what we're doing with it, hopefully it's going to be fine. 16 gig of Kingston Fury in white. This is HyperX, made by Kingston. Quite nice looking RAM actually. Non-RGB, none of that stuff. We're just gone for white heat sinks there to match the aesthetic of the case. Now for the GPU, this is a placeholder GPU. This is not one that is going to stay in the system. It's going to be upgraded, but we don't have it right now. So this is what's going to go in it for this video. This we've looked at before. This is the AMD Radeon R9 290 and actually surprisingly performed really well. So I suggest you go and watch that video. There's a whole load of games that we tried on it. And I was pleasantly surprised how this performed. Now to cool this 10-core 20-thread beast of a CPU, we have managed to get ourselves from Noctua, so thank you to Noctua for sending this over, the NH-U12A. This is a beast of a cooler and hopefully that will keep this thing nice and cool, and it will also be quiet as well. It comes with fan obviously, and hopefully all the mounting bits that we need for socket 2011, because out of the box these do not actually support socket 2011 anymore. Noctua have assured us that all we need to mount this on a socket 2011 CPU are these. I just hope they're right. Now the reason I question that is because when you look online for mounting kits for this cooler and in fact others Noctua coolers, the kit that you get is far bigger and comes with more than just those screws. So I hope this is all we need to mount it on there, and that the mounting kit that we need is actually already in there. I guess we'll see when we start building. Now, of course, we're going to be putting fans in there. We didn't buy the case with fans. You can also buy this case with fans, and it takes it up to, I think, $49.95 or something like that. Again, it's in our previous video that we looked at. Go and check that one out. We are putting these easy DIY fab fans in there because we chose the one without fans. So we've got white fans already, so we thought we'd just stick those in there. You may notice we haven't talked about storage yet. Well, we're going to do that now. This laptop that we showed you earlier takes mSATA. Now the mSATA connector is not currently compatible, or is not compatible, it doesn't fit in the M.2 slot. So what we've had to do is get ourselves an adapter. Now this little thing is actually quite cool. It's a SATA adapter, and what it will allow us to do is plug in the mSATA connector along here, or an M.2, we're going to be doing mSATA, which is across that way, into a standard SATA style connector. What that will mean is that we don't need to reinstall everything. We can just literally take the drive out, pop it in there, plug it in, and we're good to go, hopefully. Normally at this stage of the build, we would be putting the CPU in, but as you can see, we've actually already mounted the CPU in there, and we've already put the RAM on as well. So the thing that we do next is to see if the cooler fits. Okay, so that is the cooler, and you can see here we've got the NF-A12 times 25 PWM fans there, and I'm a little bit concerned about the depth of this one, but I gave Noctua the measurement of this case, and this is what they sent me. I didn't even ask which particular cooler to send, they just sent this one, so hopefully it fits. That aside, this thing is a freaking beast. It has 14 heat pipes on it. 14, that's incredible. And oh, okay, I'm not quite sure how to mount this, but I'm pretty sure I have to remove the fans. So let me just quickly get this mounted. Now I'm a bit curious as to whether these are even going to have instructions for socket 2011, because as I said earlier, when you buy this cooler, the NH-U12A, it doesn't mention anything about socket 2011. So we're just going to have to try and wing it, because I can already see it doesn't mention 2011 at all. It mentions LGA 1851, LGA 1700, LGA 1200, and LGA 115X. So that's your 1150 and 1155. And no 2011. The retention arm on the socket 2011 actually has two arms on it. Now if I can just show you this briefly, we've got one on this side and we've got one on that side. And yeah, different from your standard socket where it only has on one side. How hard can it be? Okay, I think I've figured out how this mounts. So we don't actually need the back plate. That's for socket 1155 and all the other ones I've already mentioned earlier on. So I think all we need to do is get these out, I'm hoping. And what I think happens is these curved brackets fit between these holes here and here. Hopefully you can see that. Let's show you that way around. And then the cooler screws onto that, and that is it. And there we go. That is the 4 extra screws that they sent to raise up where it actually screws onto. And I think, like I said, these will go that way around. Well, that doesn't seem to fit there. That's cool. Maybe it does go that way then. Doesn't fit there either. Awesome. No, they don't fit. Oh, it doesn't fit. Well, as I had hoped wasn't the case. I needed more than just those screws that they sent me. The extra screws that they sent are fine. They screw in no problem, but the brackets that come in it are the wrong size. These are the Intel brackets, mounting brackets that come with it, the curved ones, but they do not line up. They're slightly too short to fit. So if I just pop that one in there, hopefully you can see that. They should mount like that, and then the cooler screws onto those. There's obviously going to be one either side. But as you can see, it just doesn't go on. Even if I just put it right at the top and try and line them up, they just do not line up at all. So they are the wrong size basically, and I'm unable to continue the build today. So we're going to have to reach out to Noctua, or just go ahead and get the actual kit that I was talking about. And you can see it on the screen now. That is what the kit should look like. And obviously I only got the bolts, which is not enough, unfortunately. So, oh dear. As you saw a moment ago, we're missing some brackets that we need. But luckily, guess what arrived? Yeah, it's been about a week. I've had to reach out to Noctua, and they gratefully sent out these super quick. So that was awesome. But in the meantime, we did actually do some stuff to the build. this is what we've done so far. So you can see we got to the point where we actually need to mount the cooler, and as you saw before, we screwed these in, and then the brackets that came were the wrong ones, or it didn't actually come with any brackets. So we've now got the brackets. Let me just get these out. And these are the correct brackets. Now you can see the difference, or hopefully you can tell the difference between those and the ones I tried earlier on. They've got an extra hole at the end, and that is the bit that we need. I'll be honest with you, we did try drilling the other ones, but this is, we had no tools to do that. So these will go, hopefully, like this. If I can get my hand out of the way so you can actually see. Like that. And then we'll screw those down, and the cooler will mount or screw onto these. So let me just put the other one in. It's very difficult to do this and actually have it visible while on camera, but there we go. That's basically how that is going to go. And then what we do is we just screw these down with screws like that. I'll just pop those on so you can see. And that is it. That's all we were waiting for. It's these two brackets so that we can mount the Noctua cooler on and complete this build. So you can see the power supply, as we mentioned earlier, mounts on the front. Space between the front and the power supply is quite tight. Now you can actually fit a fan in there. We did test it. And in fact, let me get a fan. You can just about fit one in there, but it's very, very tight. And well, I needed space for cables. So I've actually got some cables rammed where the fan would go in there. So we couldn't actually put a fan there. If we move over to this bit here, you can see I've got a fan mounted at the bottom, literally facing onto the graphics card, and that will blow nice cool air from the bottom of the case directly onto the graphics card, which is actually ideal because that will help keep it cool. This graphics card, this R9 290, gets really, really hot. Now remember, this is a placeholder GPU. It's not going to stay in here forever. This is just so we can get the system up and running for now. And yeah, but it does get very, very hot, that's for sure. If you've got a power supply in your system like this one, this is the Be Quiet Pure Power 11 FM. This is a 750 watt, way overkill for what we need for this particular build, but that gives us room to expand and put a better graphics card in there, which we will be doing later on. This is the MSI R9 290, as we've already mentioned, and it is tight. If we look here at the gap between the power supply and the end of this R9 290, you can see that it's just about touching where the connectors plug in to the bottom of the power supply. And that was awkward to get that in. You cannot get the GPU in with the power supply in. So that means that you have to completely unscrew the power supply. There's 3 screws that hold this in, and then literally take it out, put your GPU in, and then very, very carefully holding the cables, modular cables out of the way, and then sliding it back in. It is a bit tight, but it is a very small case, so I knew it was going to be tight. I just didn't expect it to be that tight. Having a modular power supply like this Be Quiet Pure Power 11 FM is great because you only need to plug in the cables that you need, and it's especially important in a small case like this that you just don't plug in any extra unneeded power cables, because it just adds to the cable mess that you're trying to hide literally behind the power supply, which is kind of behind there and crammed underneath there. There's not a lot of room. You saw it just a moment ago when we did that close-up of how close the GPU was, and you can see it's quite tight. Anyway, let's get this thing built and see how it actually performs. What we need to do is make sure that the direction of airflow on these fans are in the right direction. Now on the Noctua ones, you can actually tell by looking at the bottom of the fan where the cable is going into the motor on the fan, and you'll see little arrows on the bottom of the fan showing you the direction of airflow. So if you're never sure, just look at that. Okay, there we go. That's that one done. And of course now it's going to be one side heavy. And then we do the other one. We make sure that, again, the direction of flow is not in the same direction. It needs to be in the same direction as the fan we've just put on. So what we don't want is the air blowing towards it, that one blowing that way and that one blowing that way, because that would be bad and it would get very hot. So that is the correct way around. You can see the direction of flow is going in that direction, so the air is going to go that way, which is perfect. And there we go. That is both fans on, and that is how it's going to sit in the case. Now, those paying more attention will have noticed that I've made a fatal mistake. I've put the fans on before mounting it onto the motherboard. So we've got to take the fans off, screw that on, screw the heatsink on, and then put the fans on. Okay, let's get this thing put in and then the fans put in. Now, we've obviously got the paste on there already, so we just need to put that on. One thing before I put that in, if you look at this, and you can see it looks like it's not in the center, it actually is in the center. The difference is that this bit here is closer to this side. This side is straight up. And that's why this bit looks wider than this one. So you look at that and you think, well, this isn't in the center, but it actually is in the center. It's just very deceiving. Just want to point that out. And we've got this really, really long screwdriver here that also comes in the pack as well. And start screwing that down a little bit at a time. We just want to make sure it grabs initially, which I think it has, yeah. And then we do the other side, just so we get even pressure on both sides. I'm not going to lie, this screwdriver is not ideal. It's very fiddly. One with a rubber handle on it would have been better, but I guess a screwdriver that fits is better than none. One thing I'm noticing as well, as I'm screwing this up, the whole thing is twisting in that direction. So I'm just going to line that up again. I know it's only a tiny, tiny little bit, but I don't want any of the CPU to be not covered by the heatsink at all. So I'm just going to hold that because I can see it moving as I'm screwing that up. That should be fine now. It's tightened up enough. Right, that one is tight, so I'll make it. Don't over tighten these, just do them just do them tight enough that they don't move anymore. If they don't move, they're tight. Don't over tighten them. Can't stress that enough because that will cause damage to your motherboard and that will not be good. There we go. Just one more check on that side. Yeah, it's definitely not moving. And that is it. That is solid as a rock. That is not going anywhere. Okay, so on this particular side, we can see how close this fan is. I don't know if you can see, get a good close shot of that. It's really close between the ATX power connector there and the fan itself, but obviously this is not going to move. But I just want to point that out, how close that is on this motherboard. That kind of tightness that we are dealing with here. But that's that side on. Okay, now because there's going to be very little space between here and the CPU heatsink, we're going to plug the connector in before we actually put the fan in, because I don't think I'm going to get my hands in there. So we're going to do that. Yeah. And literally just going to pray that this thing lines up. Start from this side, try and line it up, and pop that on like that. Okay, that is the cooler on, and that is one huge cooler. Not the most nicest looking coolers out there, but that should definitely keep this thing nice and cool. Now you may notice I haven't got a fan on the back. Well, I'm hoping that we don't necessarily need one right now, because these two fans are going to push that out those vents anyway. Some of it will obviously come back into the case, but there is so many vents on this thing, I'm hoping that the heat will just escape in any direction that it can. That is pretty much it. This thing is not going to have any RGB, although the bottom fan is actually an RGB fan. We're not going to be worrying about that. We just want it to work and play the thing that it needs to play, which is F123. Before we just put this cover on, I just want to point out that the power supply is in the case. Obviously, we can see it's in the front of the case. Make sure you switch this on before you put the case on, because otherwise you're going to plug that in and wonder why the thing isn't turning on. Before this PC goes to its final destination, which you'll see in a moment, by the way, let's just make sure this thing does actually fire up. So here we go. Okay, the fans are definitely spinning. I can hear that. I can see it. Oh, it's very quiet. It's very quiet indeed. Not seeing anything on the display right now. The keyboard's coming on. That means it's definitely doing something. Oh, okay, it's got a bit noisier. Still nothing on the display. That's kind of worrying. Hey, there we go. It's all booted up and we've logged in and it all seems to work. Now, we did have a few issues which we didn't show on camera, being that this has come from the laptop that you saw at the beginning of this video to a completely different Intel-based system, an X79 chipset with a Xeon 2680 V2 in there. Totally different, and it did have some issues booting up. We've also migrated the drive to an NVMe from the SSD that you saw earlier as well to help speed up boot times and just generally make the system a bit more responsive. So that's another upgrade that we've done as well. And then later on down the line, we're going to put a much faster GPU in there. So get subscribed if you want to see how it performs with the Xeon and that CPU. But for now, we're going to take this and put it where it's meant to be going in its natural habitat upstairs in our sim rig. So let's go. Okay, well, here is the monitor and the computer in its natural habitat. Let's swing round and have a look and see what we can see. So we can see we've got the computer there, not the monitor, that is the computer. You've seen this already. And I'm going to add an additional fan in the back there because this thing does get very hot playing this game. So we're going to definitely want to cool this thing down even more than it is already. And you can see that we're already in the game because we're going to be playing that in just a second. And there is the Samsung 24-inch HD monitor there. Now, if we just stand up quickly, we can see the entire setup here. We've got a chair with no wheels, and that is to stop the chair from moving back when we're pushing on the pedals, which is not a good thing because you do not want the seat moving back when you are racing, because that would be bad. We've got the Logitech G920 steering wheel there. That is securely attached to this rig here. I don't know the name of this rig here. We got it cheap, secondhand. If you know the name, comment in the description down below. Can't remember, but it was very, very cheap. You can pick these up pretty much anywhere. We've also got a soft tire in the background there, so that in case we pit, well, we will be pitting, we've got a tire there ready to go as well. And also got a fan here to keep the driver cool, which is very essential in this heat. Now, the monitor and the computer are on a stand that you can see there, just about, and camera glitch, but that's fine. We'll just continue. We've got the monitor stand there, and that's attached to a floor standing kind of stand on wheels, and that is kind of all cable tied in the back here, as you can see. We've kind of got cable ties around showing tidying the cables basically the best we can. We've still got a bit of cabling tidying to do down the bottom there, but that's okay. We will get to that in a moment. And then up here, because this is Formula One corner, we've got these. These are McLarens, as you can see, and number 4, I think. Yep, number 4. And if you don't know what number 4 is, that's Lando Norris. So that's what we've got there, Drive to Survive thing up the top there as well. And there we go. So this is it. So the thing we're going to do next is actually, if I can just get back in the seat 1 second, and we are going to have a lap around Silverstone. So what we're going to do is have a lap around Silverstone and just see what kind of experience that we can get with this. So let's go. And let's go. Yes, we're away. Off we go. And we've got the stats up in the corner there. You can see that it's going to be tricky while I'm doing this one-handed, but let's just see what we can do here. Currently getting about 59 FPS, and then the second number on the left there is 50 average. Oh, 1 second. Okay, that was close. That was close. All sharp corner. Sharp. Oh, not doing very well here one-handed. So this is not going so well. And the second numbers there, the third and the fourth numbers there are the 1% and 0.1% lows. Kind of concentrating right now, so I can't really see what they say, so I'll leave you to see that. Let's just get around this corner. Oh, I think we got hit there. I think we got hit. As you can see, hopefully you can see that the GPU is 93 degrees. Don't forget, these R9 290s are rated up to 95 degrees. So that is actually normal temperature for this GPU. CPU is holding steady at 60 or 59 degrees if you want to be specific, but about 60 degrees there, and running just over 3 gigahertz on all, I'm assuming that's all cores. I think that's all cores. And the GPU, being that it's only an R9 290, is only running at less than 1,000 megahertz at this moment in time, which is not amazing, but it is what it is. Okay, average FPS there is 50. Ideally, we want to try and aim for 60. And we're nearly coming to the end of this lap here. Last few corners is really sharp. Let's just slow down, that's it. Okay, and let's put the foot down. I don't think we're going to get past these cars. And the start finish straight. And here we go. And that is one lap of Silverstone complete. Okay, there we go. Right, let's just get up and let's, excuse me. Right, oh. Well, there we go. That is the sim rig all built, and Ellen is gonna have some fun playing with this, although we definitely do need to upgrade that graphics. It's not great, and we definitely need to get more frames out of this GPU because it's not looking great on the screen, I must tell you. And we definitely need to sort that out. But if you like this kind of content, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and there'll be more cool stuff and more upgrades for this one coming in the future, so don't miss those, and we'll see you soon.